got a massive Hall of Fame class, two massive Hall of Fame classes as it were. We've got the safety who laughs, wearing scars like badges of honor, and so much more right here on the Undefined Blitz.
35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's to the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome to the second episode of the Undefined Blitz. As football is back, it's underway. Best time of the year. Yeah, for the next 6 months almost, we get football.
Right, and we've actually had a little bit of football last week. Of course, it was gross, it was terrible, it was sloppy, it was the Hall of Fame game, it was everything that we expected it to be. However, it's that first little indication that it's actually here, and we're back and we're ready to go.
No, it's football. It's football. It's all you need. It's all you want. You have football back. Of course, with the Hall of Fame game, you got to see, it was basically about you're looking at 5th and 6th string players. You get to see some, little sparks of what can and may not happen for your team, and really it's just about getting some of these younger guys some experience getting on the field.
And it's not just 5th and 6th string guys. I mean, you're getting a little run for some young guys who are probably going to contribute to your team rather heartily, too.
Well, the point is you're not getting your superstars. All right?
Not for extended periods
and all
of time.
You're getting, really, with these Hall of Fame games and these first preseason games is going to be a lot of backups, guys who are fighting for roster spots, maybe some guys who are trying to get back into football shape. Maybe they didn't get to play last year. But for the most part, most of these starters are not going to get to play. We did see Pittsburgh and their running back. Najee played a lot.
But Micah Parsons played.
Micah Parsons had a couple of series in there. Was very disappointed when he got pulled back out. He wanted to keep playing. And we're going to talk about that in a little while.
We'll jump into
hit
Hard
on
Knocks.
all that because Hard Knocks premiered last night, baby. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. Gave you a lot of different views. We're going to talk about that. A lot of interesting things are happening in the football world. It moves quickly right now. Moving quickly right now. So we're going to start this off, and we'll briefly talk about this Hall of Fame stuff. I mean, most of you by now have probably seen clips.
Right.
A lot of these speeches and things that happened this weekend because there were a lot of dudes.
Yeah, a lot of guys had to get there
went
and
into the
talk
Hall of
because
Fame.
There were two massive Hall of Fame classes that went in.
So, and it was the 2020 class was ginormous.
Right. It was really like the 2020 class, and then they took a class of guys who probably should have been in long ago.
Yes. Which is what they needed to do.
And they just threw them in there to make sure that they got their recognition that they deserved.
Yeah, so just real quick, let's look. Here's the class of 2020. You had Steve Atwater, Isaac Bruce, Harold Carmichael, Jimbo Covert, Bill Cowher, Bobby Dillon, Cliff Harris, Winston Hill, Steve Hutchinson, Edgerrin James, Jimmy Johnson, Alex Karras, Troy Polamalu, Steve Sable, Donnie Shell, Duke Slater, Max Speedham, Ed Sprinkle, Paul Tagliabue, and George Young. Class of 2021 was Drew Pearson, Tom Flores, Peyton Manning, John Lynch, Calvin Johnson, Alan Faneca, and Charles Woodson. Now, there were some great speeches in there.
Oh, yes.
There were some that were good,
yeah.
some that were interesting, and then there were some great ones. None greater than Peyton Manning.
Right. I mean, his ability to captivate an audience and really have them and hold them in the palm of his hand, which is, it's the sign of any great public speaker, which, I mean, we've seen Peyton do this, whether it's doing commercials or hosting his own show, Peyton's Places, or whatever it might be. Peyton's really comfortable in the spotlight with a microphone in front of his face.
Oh, he was awesome. Once he started off, you knew, okay, this next 12 minutes or so is going to be fun because whatever he says, you're going to listen to every word of it. He had jokes. His stories were great. The story he told, about the bus at night, because this is something that John Madden had said years earlier.
Right.
And John Madden said he didn't care what anybody said. He will always believe this. So Peyton tells this story about these busts talking to one another at night and all these things that go on when the lights are out. The janitors are gone, and there's nobody left in the Hall of Fame, but all these legends that are in there. It was completely awesome.
Peyton spoke of the bus coming alive to actually play a game of football.
He told a brilliant story about that too. That was fun.
About all these icons and these legends of the game that may be wearing different helmets, but they got to be they're now and forever on the same team.
Exactly, and it was fun. It was so cool. I mean, like I said, his joke about Ray Lewis's speech though from 2018 was awesome.
Because I don't know if you guys know this, but all the presenters this year, all the inductees, were told keep your speeches to 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Because some of these speeches in the past have gone entirely too long. We need to cut that down, which I wholeheartedly disagree with, and so did Peyton Manning.
Oh, it was funny. It was so good. And you do need some kind of lane to keep some of your stuff in, because some of these before, and we've seen this in various organizations have done this now, saying, all right, look, guys, you just can't talk all night. You got other people who need to talk. And you get it because you're trying to sum up a career, into a few short minutes. But to reduce it down to 6 minutes when you're barely getting started and you don't have time to thank some of these people. Some of the guys you wish only had 2 minutes to speak, because you can tell they're just not speakers.
Right.
They're trying to find ways to say what they're saying. But man, Peyton's was so good. That was, and Charles Woodson's was good.
Charles Woodson had a really great speech as well.
He had a great speech.
But that's two guys that have had very long and storied football careers. Didn't just play in the NFL for a long time, but they were very accomplished in their collegiate level and in high school.
Oh yeah. It was awesome. And look,
you think about Charles Woodson, what he accomplished. He not only won a Heisman, but then he also won a national championship in college.
Yeah.
Won a Super Bowl in the NFL.
Yep.
And is a Hall of Famer.
Yes, he is.
I mean, that
got it done. And Charles Woodson loves his mama.
As long as he played in the league as well, that's why I love these stories. That's why I like it when these guys can actually go long, but also are able to captivate the audience the entire time that they're doing it.
And they did. And going back to Peyton, I hate to keep bringing this up, but his crack about Tom Brady, Tom Brady showed up there, and some of the behind the scenes stuff with Tom Brady talking to these guys.
Peyton invited him.
Well, he absolutely did, and it was great on Tom to come out there and support his friend and do that, because his crack about Tom Brady and the length of the speech being when he gets in, he'll only have time to post it to his Instagram was great. In 2035, when he becomes eligible, intimating that Tom's going to play until the year 2030, which is funny
and
in
that
itself.
Over time, progressively, the Hall of Fame speeches will have to get forcibly shorter and shorter and shorter.
So it was fun. That whole thing was a blast. And I tell you, the one thing I took away from all of it, and the Hall of Fame weekend, especially if you love football, it's fun to listen to these stories and these legends. And there's a lot of people who aren't in there that should be. There are a ton of greats, and we're not talking guys who may be middle of the road, and you may have an opinion one way or the other. We're talking absolute greats.
I mean, you think about
who
some
are
of these
not
guys
in there
who are
yet,
coming in as senior members.
That's what I mean.
Voted on by a committee, like, hey, this guy's gone way too long. Like, we need him in here.
And and that's why they need these senior members.
I mean, and you saw that with guys like Drew Pearson, with Cliff Harris, Jimbo Covert, Harold Carmichael. I mean,
there were tons of that because
Tom Flores is what? He's like 84.
Yeah, should have been a long time ago.
Now, you think Tom Flores won a Super Bowl as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach?
That's right.
The first Mexican American to win a Super Bowl as head coach, correct?
Yeah. And the further we get removed from those old school days, the more these guys are forgotten. All right, we have more video now of all these what we consider current players within the last 20 years, our modern era players. And so the guys who came before that, you have less and less of that quality footage, and a lot of these newer fans just don't know who they are. And even older guys, that you forget that, oh, yeah, this dude, I remember this guy.
It's like Alex Karras played well before I was ever born. But I remember Alex Karras from, like, Blazing Saddles,
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people remember him.
Because he had a pretty good run as an actor.
Well, he did. He was on that TV show forever.
Which one?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a couple of them actually, but the one he was on was oh my lord, this is sad because it's super popular. So they adopted this little kid, this little black kid, and dude, I can see his face and everything. I cannot remember the name of that show. Maybe somebody of you out there will remember it. I'll have to look it up after this show is over with. But yeah, but again, people who didn't know that would only know him from maybe this or maybe that. And so some of these legends out there, man, they need to be recognized. And I think having the senior edition is the best way to make sure that they right a whole bunch of wrongs, especially when you get younger sports writers and some of those people who are getting to vote now. And people have to be nominated in their hats, to get their names up there, even to get on the list to be voted on. To me, baseball's is the worst.
Well, it's too selective. Baseball's is.
Yes, it is.
It's like, hey, let's get all of 3 guys in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, like why?
You've got more guys out there
You've
that
got
have
tons.
contributed and made impacts and significant contributions to your game. Like you can, and I understand they're trying to make it the elite of the elite. But I mean, baseball is a game of failure, for God's sakes.
It really is.
But that's a different discussion for a different show.
Yeah, but I'll tell you.
But you look at this list of names that went in. Like Steve Sable never played a down in the NFL. He never coached.
Yeah, his
a game.
contribution to the NFL and NFL films with his father,
right,
on top of that, was incredible.
So, NFL films being what it is really helped pave the way for what is now the NFL Network.
That's what it really was.
And NFL films is still a thing. It still exists.
Yes.
It still does. It still works. But without NFL films, you don't get that constant 24-hour-a-day coverage.
No,
like you do with the NFL Network. But guys like Donnie Shell, who's like a forgotten member of the Steel Curtain defense of the 70s. Old school names that were probably playing football before our grandparents.
I mean, Harold Carmichael
like
was...
Duke Slater and Max Speedy and Ed Sprinkle, guys who were playing with leather helmets,
Harold Carmichael was such a great receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. This dude was tall. Harold Carmichael was tall and then could make some catches. And yet you don't hear a lot about Harold Carmichael. And I remember as a Cowboy fan, they going up against Harold Carmichael, and you're going, oh, here comes this dude. And he was just excellent and great at what he did. And it's good to see guys like that get in the Hall of Fame where they should have been, like you said, a long time ago.
Yeah, but I'm happy that some of my favorite players from when I was a teenager now are really starting to get in there. Of course, remember watching John Lynch with the Buccaneers and then the Broncos. Edgerrin James was one of my favorite running backs. What he did with Peyton Manning and those Colts teams before he went out to Arizona and joined the Cardinals. Of course, Calvin Johnson, he's the weird one because he had such a short career. He only played 8 years or 9 years.
But he was super dominant.
He was the single most dominant wide receiver I've seen in my lifetime.
Now, never even got close to snipping a championship with Detroit. Not even remotely. Yet his excellence on that field, I mean, you don't get the name Megatron for no reason.
Was part of that 0-16.
That's right.
Because he had Dan Orlovsky as his quarterback.
And there you go.
Hey, it's the whole reason they got Matt Stafford. So, I mean, silver linings, I guess.
Hey, there you go.
But getting to watch those guys, even like Steve Hutchinson, who was playing, rather recently, he was on those Brett Favre Vikings teams that were, pushing for the Super Bowl runs. So, a lot of these, and hey, got a shout out to the University of Memphis and Isaac Bruce.
Hey, there you go.
Of course, Isaac Bruce, when he played there, it was still Memphis State University.
I know, so long ago.
He gave them that shout out. So, whenever it's kind of local like that, we got to acknowledge it.
Well, you kind of have to. It just makes all the sense in the world.
Congrats to Isaac Bruce. Congratulations on a great career and a very well-deserved induction into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. We talk about silver linings. What about Clinton Dix?
Yeah, see, Ha-Ha's had a weird NFL career because he was stellar in college.
Yes, he was.
We all knew he was one of the absolute best safeties while he was playing at Alabama. Now, maybe we're learning that maybe he wasn't really all that great. Maybe it was the talent around him doing what they did that demanded so much attention that it allowed him to shine. But Clinton Dix, he has been signed by the San Francisco 49ers. He was a first-round pick by the Packers back in 2014. He spent 4.5 years in Green Bay before he got traded to Washington back in 2018. He then compiled 78 tackles and 2 INTs, one of which being a pick 6. That was for the Bears back in 2019. Of course, prior to last season, Clinton Dix signs with the Dallas Cowboys, but he ends up getting cut as they're finalizing the rosters. He didn't even make the team and ended up not playing for anyone at all last season.
Yeah, I thought, it was funny because it was such a surprise to everybody, but then you start looking at it, and I don't know, as bad as that defense was, I don't know, were they better off cutting him, or was this...
They weren't paying. It wasn't like they signed him to a big deal either.
Exactly. So
I think he had a 1-year, $3 million contract.
Well, that's why I'm thinking, last year's defense...
For the Cowboys.
For the Dallas Cowboys was either so god-awful because of leadership, talent, or both.
I think part of it was talent. I think it was a lack of depth. I say talent.
I'm sure there definitely was a depth issue.
But also trying to implement a completely new
system with no off
defense with minimal offseason. You didn't get the real full training camp. You didn't get the full OTAs. It's all virtual learning, and the scheme that they were running under Mike Nolan was philosophically and entirely different than the one that they ran under old man McCoy. I can't think of his name.
Dude, I can't either.
I can see his face. That's the worst part. Rob Marinelli. There you go. That's his name. So the defense that Marinelli and Mike Nolan were running were two wildly different ones. So they didn't really get to implement it. Now they've actually had a full offseason with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's very hands-on with his players. And we're seeing how much those players are taking to that. But we'll get more into that as we get into Hard Knocks later on. But with it was weird that he didn't make the team. Like, I almost thought he was a shoo-in when he got signed.
I think we all did.
Because we knew the lack of depth that was there.
That's right.
At that safety position. You knew Xavier Woods was going to start for the Cowboys last season. And outside of that, you had no idea, really.
That's right.
But Clinton Dix did get cut, didn't make the team. But the 28-year-old has 522 career tackles and 16 interceptions, and he will now get a chance to reignite his career on a feisty Niners defense. San Francisco has required secondary help because Jaquiski Tartt and Tony Jefferson are both battling injuries. Tartt is on the PUP list with a toe injury that was suffered last season. Kyle Shanahan has noted that he's unsure of when the safety will return, and Tony Jefferson is dealing with a groin/hamstring tweak. So the team's really kind of uncertain of how long he'll be out as well. Clinton Dix is a good name to add into that secondary. Definitely a depth player who can help out and can contribute when he's at full capacity.
Well, they hope so. They need him to, and that's again that goes back to the question of being, was he a fluke at Alabama? I mean, you see his numbers. We told you his numbers right there. I mean, he's put up 16 interceptions in his career.
That's nothing to scoff at.
It definitely isn't. It definitely isn't. But what does he still have left in the tank? I mean, these NFL careers aren't long.
He played pretty well for the Packers.
Yep.
I was kind of surprised when they traded him to Washington. He did all right that little half of the season he was with Washington. Had a good year with the Bears. Wasn't great, but it was good. And then got to Dallas and just never really got the traction. I'm more than willing to chalk that up to it being that weird COVID year. And with all the restrictions, it was just hard for most veterans. Because we saw a lot of veterans coming to Dallas last year and fell spectacularly.
Oh, yeah. Well, we saw a bunch of everybody fail spectacularly last year, regardless of who they were. But this year's a different story. And Hard Knocks last night, dude, that was so much. It was so interesting to see. Look,
I love.
Full disclaimer: we follow the Cowboys, so we know a lot what we think of the information that goes on, and we listen to a lot of the podcasts and things that go on with Dallas. Because look, first of all, Dallas's team down there and what they have in their production is insane.
Right.
It's so good.
But this was all HBO here.
But this is all So we see a certain amount of things. But Hard Knocks has access to everything. And the stuff that you got to see, you saw a different side of Dak Prescott last night.
And HBO with their team, they're not beholden to anyone.
No, they're not.
They don't have to appeal to Jerry Jones' sensibilities.
No. But you saw a different side of Dak Prescott last night.
Oh, for sure.
You saw how close him and Zeke are last night. You saw a different side of, honestly, Mike McCarthy. That was great. Dan Quinn. Yeah, I think people have one perception of Dan Quinn a certain way.
I think Dan Quinn just gives you Dan Quinn all the time.
Well, I think he does and he doesn't. I think there's this weird misconception about him.
I think head coach Dan Quinn was an anomaly because he
I
knew
think
he
so
had
too.
to toe a company line.
That's right.
But
as
now,
a coordinator, not so much.
Yeah.
And it was fun to see that last night.
Now, what I found interesting about Hard Knocks was right from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
As soon as it started up, there was a very noticeable motif. A theme was set instantly.
Oh yeah,
And
had to have been.
And
It's the biggest story.
They had such a great attention getter talking about the scars. That was the theme of the episode, was scars.
Yeah, they just didn't have to show.
But they
the breakage like 74 times.
They showed Dak's scars on his face. He talked about them. Showed the ones on his ankle. He had 2 surgeries after the injury. They showed
Calls
the
him his
injury.
wishbone on his ankle.
But it wasn't just Dak's injury from his god-awful injury that he suffered last season. They talked about Zeke's mental scars from the worst season of his career.
Yep.
All the fumbling issues, not really getting run after, not getting yards after contact, things that he's known for doing, and him trying to bounce back and trying to get it back together for the season. Of course, then there's the haunting scar of last season just constantly hanging over
the team.
This Dallas team, that front office, the head coaches, all of it, as they're getting ready for this 2021 season.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about Hard Knocks is that you don't even have to be a fan of the team when you're watching Hard Knocks for it to be interesting anyway.
Right, I watch every season.
That's right. So
I've seen every season since the first season with the Baltimore Ravens.
It's just fascinating to watch it. But again, even as Dallas fans, we learn new things. Like, again, the fire with Dak Prescott. Him being upset because they wouldn't give him many reps. They had him on a rep count pretty much.
After he strained his shoulder.
Well, they had him on a rep count before that.
Well,
they pulled him out.
Because they did more with him than they meant to do at the first
That's
practice.
right. And then he wasn't really when he just gotten into the padded practice when he strained the shoulder.
Right.
The underneath part
Or
of it.
his lat,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, he was hot. He was hot about not getting to be out there.
He took it out on Garrett Gilbert, too.
he really did. That was kind of, but that shows you the fire and the competitor that he is. We don't see that a lot from Dak. What the public really gets to see that obviously the team does.
Dak keeps it together. He's very composed when he's, doing a media session.
Absolutely. And to see that was interesting. It was cool. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
But earlier we were kind of talking about Micah Parsons a little bit. You were talking about, getting to see the young guys in the Hall of Fame game, Najee Harris, Micah Parsons. But Micah Parsons, you got to see that energy and that enthusiasm that we noticed on draft night and the day after the draft when he did his introductory press conference.
Yeah.
But getting to see him and what he wanted to do in practice, how he wanted to prove himself at practice against guys. Guys wanted to talk to him. He went out there and was like, all right, well, we'll go one-on-one. It was, I think the fullback actually beat him on a route. I mean, put a move on him, burned Micah Parsons. Micah owned it, gave him his congratulations, said, try to do it again. Is ready to go. And that you like to see that. But then, like you were talking about in the game itself, in the Hall of Fame game, after Micah puts together an impressive little run, they tell him to get on the offensive phone that's usually used for the quarterback to talk to the offensive coordinator. They said, hey, Dan Quinn wants to holler at you. So the phone rings. Micah answers it. And he's talking to Dan Quinn. And he is begging and pleading to get back out there and play more football because he felt like he was finally hitting his stride. He was finally seeing the game develop the way he knows it's supposed to. And to his credit, Dan Quinn,
nope.
like, nope,
you're done.
You're good.
We'll talk later.
And it's like, man, I'm just getting warmed up. And Dan Quinn said, I know, me too. But we got an extra game, so you'll get more run next week. But that's not what this game's for. And then you go see Micah Parsons running up to Leighton Vander Esch on the
That was funny.
bench and kind of venting about it. It's like, man, they won't let me, like, this sucks.
Just like you asked, didn't you?
And Leighton was like, oh, they told you couldn't play anymore? It's like, yeah, man. Said, I bet you asked, didn't you? It was like, yeah, I did.
And Leighton's
And
laughing
Leighton's
the whole
laughing
time.
because Leighton's been there.
That's right.
Like, he knows how it is. He's experienced that firsthand. But that's the veteran and the rookie. That's that welcome to the NFL moment that doesn't involve getting your jaw jacked.
Oh, exactly. So it was, and that's what I'm saying. Little things like that you don't
Learning
really get to see.
how to be an NFL player.
Yep. The mojo moment. How that came about with the Austin Powers
Right.
deal and that whole thing was funny. I mean, stuff like that was so entertaining. And I love the idea behind it to energize practice with the mojo moments and got all the guys kind of pumped about it, but that started in the meeting room. And that was fun. Them talking about Dak's injury, his strained shoulder or his lat, whatever they're calling it. And what was great about that was because there's been so much speculation, about how serious is this injury, because that's a great talking point when you're listening to any sports show, whether it's ESPN or podcast like this one. The whole speculation is he really hurt? How bad is it? And then with Hard Knocks, you see the full disclosures right there. This is what it is, because you're hearing the head trainer talk to Jerry Jones with the amount of salt he put on that McGriddle.
Why? First,
Sweet-
why do
sweet
you why
Lord.
do you put salt on a McGriddle at
I don't
all?
know, but that was a lot.
The whole point of the McGriddle is to be sweet.
Dude, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was. But that's what I'm saying though. It's the things we have an assumption about how things work and what goes on.
And
But
one
with
of those
Hard
things
Knocks-
is you don't put salt on a McGriddle.
Yeah, but with Hard Knocks, you get to see it. You get to see all those things like that.
But what I thought was great coming out of this moment with the trainer talking to Jerry is that the trainer confirmed to Jerry, he's like, I've spoken with the athletic trainer for the Yankees.
Yeah,
I've spoken with the athletic trainer of the Texas Rangers. Because this is basically a pitcher's injury.
That's right.
People who make a throwing motion repetitively at some point will suffer this. It's like, it's nothing to be concerned about as long as we rest him. As long as he's not throwing hard all the time, he's going to be fine.
Mike McCarthy tickled me. He goes up like, shouldn't he be getting treatment? Hey, Dak, I appreciate you being out here.
Right.
And stuff, but you need to go get treatment.
But I couldn't help in that scene in particular. When he was saying that to Dak, Dak was like, and this is me, I haven't talked to Dak Prescott, of course, but I couldn't help but feel like Dak Prescott was thinking, I don't need to be seen because there's cameras out here.
Yeah.
There was a live crowd there. There was multiple media outlets there and the Hard Knocks cameras. I don't think Dak Prescott wanted to be seen walking off the field in the middle of the practice. Because he knows at that point he becomes even bigger talking spot than what he already is.
Well, I think there's a lot to that, and I also think it's Dak being the leader that he is and wanting to be out there amongst all of that with his teammates. Yeah, I think that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
with
I agree.
with that. I mean, it's because Dak is so much more complicated than that, which again we saw last night. I mean, it was such an in-depth look, and then, with Mike McCarthy messing with him, telling him he's just busting his balls
Right.
out there. You see how serious Dak was?
Right.
Like, calm down, kid. It's gonna be fine. I'm just busting your balls a little bit. And but like I said, the whole show was good. I'm like, I didn't want it to be over because you got to see so much, and you can tell this next episode because you got the Rams scrimmage coming into this.
Right.
I'm sure. I
So
can't wait.
You're going
to
to
see
have
that.
all the issues with Kenny Young constantly taking cheap shots. There was one that went around of Kenny Young taking a cheap shot on Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have come to Kenny Young's defense saying he was trying to swipe at the ball. I can also tell you I watched that video a lot, and you know where that ball wasn't? Up at Tony Pollard's chin.
That's right.
And it wasn't the only time Kenny Young did this during that practice.
And
He
the
also
play
did
was
it with-
over.
He also did it and it was way out of bounds.
That's right.
But he also did it on another play with the receiver. Took another cheap shot on a receiver there.
Yep.
And then on both occasions after he took his cheap shot, ran away.
He ran away. Yeah.
So
There's
there's
a pattern.
You'll get the scrum between Connor Williams and Aaron Donald that broke out at that joint practice. Now, people have looked at this two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Dallas Cowboys Twitter has said that Connor Williams was holding his own against Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald did push Connor Williams 5 yards deep into the backfield.
Yes, he did.
But he never became disengaged from Connor Williams.
Yeah.
Connor Williams held on to him the whole time.
Yeah.
So you got people out there that said Connor Williams blocked him, and then other people said that Aaron Donald beat him because he pushed him so far into the backfield. I'll let you guys be the judge on it when you see the footage on Hard Knocks.
Aaron Donald, though, good Lord.
That's a monster
That's
of a
a
man.
monster. That's what I like
But
to have on my team.
you'll also get footage of the upcoming Cowboys-Cardinals game, which will be...
Ooh, that's right.
I believe that's tonight.
It is.
Yep. So
It is.
y'all are going to watch this on a Thursday. We're recording on a Wednesday. Y'all
Yeah.
watching on Thursday. So when you see it on Thursday, it'll be that night when the game is played on
That's right.
Thursday
So,
night.
which is cool.
Which we'll get into the slate of the weekend games, preseason games, know which ones that you can look out for.
Oh, yeah. So that was awesome. God, there's so many things happening right now. You saw Clemson's quarterback, DJ. I'm going to call him Ukulele because I cannot pronounce that last name.
Yeah, so he's, I guess, the new mayor of Fansville.
I guess he
as
is.
It goes.
I guess he
So,
is.
He's partnered with Dr. Pepper. They've got their NIL deal, and he will appear in the Dr. Pepper Fansville ad campaign throughout the college football season. The company announced that today, the day we're recording it, Wednesday, so yesterday
Yep.
for you guys. But DJ will be the only active collegiate player featured in the Fansville commercials. And these will chronicle, these commercials, you're familiar with them. They've been doing it for a
Sure.
few years now. But they chronicle the lives of rival fans in a fictional college football-obsessed town. Financial terms have not been disclosed about this deal yet. But DJ did say that Dr. Pepper approached him about the idea to work together. He said he likes drinking the soda, and he's also enjoyed watching the Fansville campaigns, which are heading to their fourth season. There we go. Late last month, he did tape multiple commercials. The first one is scheduled to premiere on August 23rd. DJ would go to say, I wanted to do brands that are authentic to me, which, hey, we all get that appeal. I don't want to be one of those people that just does all these different brands. He says that he wants to have a long-standing partnership with Dr. Pepper, and they kind of go hand in hand with college football. So I like DJ and his approach to this. What I find interesting here is his coach, Dabo Swinney.
Dabo.
Dabo's been very anti-NIL. He's
Yep.
been anti-college football playoff expansion.
Yep.
He's not a big fan of the Texas-Oklahoma move to the SEC.
Nope.
So with Dabo not being a fan of the NIL stuff and having actively spoken out against it, how do you think he feels about his star quarterback, signing this big deal with Dr. Pepper and doing commercials now?
I think as long as his quarterback performs, it ain't gonna matter.
Right,
He can
which
say
he
all.
should.
He can come out and say all that he wants to, but as long as his quarterback goes out and performs, it has no bearing on Dabo Swinney.
No, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But my question is really more about Dabo saving face here.
Well-
because he is actively spoken out against this, and then the leader of his team is now leading arguably the biggest campaign that we've seen so far.
Well, first of all, he has to realize that it would be dumb for his quarterback to say no
Oh, for
to
sure.
this because there's no guarantee of any future in the NFL.
Right.
We've seen this way too many times. So for Dabo to come out and be dead set against that, to me, is the wrong approach. He may not agree with it, and I get that because there's a lot of things we just like, okay, well, I don't really, that's not my thing. I don't agree with that. I still feel it should be this or that, whatever, because you're going to see that a lot. You've seen it with the SEC, with OU and Texas. People, especially like even within the SEC. Like today I was asked in Walmart, because I was in Walmart shopping this morning. Yeah, so I'm in Walmart, right? And the guy stops me, we're talking, and he says, so how do you feel about OU Texas going to SEC? I'm like, I love it. Yeah. To me, it's great. I get why people don't. I get why SEC homers don't like it. I get why Big 12 fans don't like it.
I get why fans of every other conference don't like it. I get why
Understand
people
that.
don't like it.
Yeah, so we were talking about that, but change is good. There's nothing wrong with that. We've been talking for years about this whole NIL thing before it was even called that.
Right.
All right, about what needs to happen with these players. And it's not fair that NCAA makes all this money off these players, and they get nothing but either suspended, fined, kicked out of the college, not getting to play because they might make $1.50
Right.
off of their name. That was wrong. And so, I get it. I don't think Dabo has to save face, though. I think it's easy enough for him to just say, hey, go and look, that's what the kid wants to do. As long as he can go out on that field and perform, that's where I'm going to have the issue at. If this takes away from that, then we are going to have an issue.
Right. He's going to have to get out in front of this and take an ownership and show support of his quarterback.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's just going to have egg on his face and he's going to look like crotchety old guy who's out of touch.
And you don't want that.
And here's the thing. I mean, it says in this article that they already taped the commercials. They taped them last month.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to be stopping in the middle of the football season.
That's right.
And going to film them. They filmed them not only a month ago, but they filmed them in Clemson.
I'll be honest.
He didn't even have to leave town. He could just roll over. They filmed it. I think they had his parent or his family there so they could watch him do his thing. Knocked out a few commercials in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And that was that.
I think the biggest thing becomes that for DJ is, all right, now you're putting your face out there, and for any of these college athletes,
right.
You're making all this money, and some of you haven't even stepped on the field in a commanding role yet. Is all this attention and money you're getting over here going to affect your performance on the field? And they're going to have to fight to not let that happen, right?
And I think that raises a good point because when it gets to like upperclassmen, right?
Yes.
Your high quality juniors and your senior stars.
Mm-hmm.
When these guys are out there and they're doing their thing, and it starts to get to the end of the year, and they know that they're possibly going to get drafted in the NFL.
Sure.
They know that they're already making money from these brands that they're partnered up with. Will those brands still be there if they were to keep playing the second half of that season and get hurt and drops their draft rankings? Because those brands want to be attached to star power. The higher you get drafted, bigger your star power is from the jump when you get to the league. So, I mean, if you're like Chris Olave, for an example, I'm completely putting up a hypothetical here, people.
That's right.
Don't say that I'm out here saying this about him. This is a completely hypothetical situation. But let's say Chris Olave gets halfway through the season. He's making all these great brand deals, projected to be the number one wide receiver in this class going into next year's NFL draft. And he tells the Buckeyes, he's like, hey, I'm just going to forego the rest of the year and I'm going to prepare for the draft. As fans, we hate it. We think that's a terrible decision. It's selfish. You're leaving your teammates out to dry, blah, blah, blah. But Chris Olave is beholden to himself.
Yes.
Because he's the one who's going to have a future in football.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be the one who has a future at the next level. Do you feel like it's okay for him to forego that senior year to make sure that he doesn't compromise the integrity of the brand deals that he has at that point and also doesn't hurt his draft stock and fall down the board?
Well, I think that's
because right now he's the consensus number one wide receiver.
Well, I think that's where it's going to come into play at. Like if he foregoes this season and says, you know what, I don't think it's worth it. I could get hurt, and the NFL draft is coming up, so I'm just not going to play anymore this season at all. I think I'll be fine doing that. What message are you sending, first of all, to your future teammates and to the franchise that's going to potentially draft you?
As well as your current teammates in your university.
That's right. So you have quit on your team, and people can call it what they want to, going into whatever, but you basically quit on your team to say, it's about me. That's the look. Whether right or wrong, that's the look. It does. You can spin it any way you want to, but from the optics of it, that's the look. It's about me. It's about my future. And when you're going into the NFL, what organization says, well, this guy's good and can be really good. He can be one of the greats, but there's some other guys out there, too, that can contribute. And I might have a lot less headache with these guys.
And look, I'm not saying that Chris Olave is doing that. I want to make that perfectly clear. I am not
strictly hypothetical.
Not saying that he is doing that.
Exactly.
I'm putting that out as a hypothetical that could apply to so many guys across the board.
That's the fear, though, is that.
Right. This is a potential thing that could happen at some point. If it doesn't happen this season, we could see it happen in a few seasons from now.
And you're going to. Inevitably, you're going to see that.
There's going to be a guy.
Some knucklehead's going to make that decision.
Yes. At some point, someone's going to value that money that they're already making over their love for football.
And that's kind of the thing.
Here's a weird thing too. Like, everyone talks about that. Coaches talk about it. Scouts talk about it. Fans talk about it. I want guys on my team that love the game of football. But there's also the caveat that, bro, not everybody loves the game of football. Not every football player that's
Loves
highly
football.
successful loves the game of football. There are guys in the NFL right now who are making tens of millions of dollars a season who are considered top-tier NFL football players who do not love the game of football, but they keep playing it because, one, they make a lot of money and they're really good at it.
Mm-hmm. And they know. But, and some of those guys, though, like that, are the smart ones. They know that I'm really good at this game. I'm going to solidify my future for myself and my family. And I can do it here. I can make a long-term investment on me for a short-term job that I'm doing right now.
Oh,
and there are some guys that are going to do that. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. Because there's a reason. Those guys that are making that top-tier money, whether they hate the game or not, are out there producing at a high level because they know the more they produce, the more they make.
Absolutely.
And that's just how that works.
Creating generational wealth there.
And you got to do that. Sad news, though, in the world of football. And we knew this was coming, but it's still sad anyway. The coach, Bobby Bowden, passed away.
Yeah, Bobby Bowden, who was a college football Hall of Famer, was also the patriarch of one of the sport's most famous coaching families. He died on Sunday morning after battling pancreatic cancer. He was 91. His family announced last month that Bowden had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I think we talked about this on either our last Big Ugly show or it was our first episode of Undefined Blitz. But Bowden was quoted as saying in the statement that his family released, "I've always tried to serve God's purpose for my life on and off the field, and I am prepared for what is to come. My wife Ann and our family have been life's greatest blessing. I am at peace."
Yeah, just a great dude.
So the thing with Bobby Bowden is that he leaves a legacy that reaches far beyond the game of football in his role as a coach. He was famously known for his folksy charm and his witty one-liners, but Bowden often spent Sunday mornings preaching at church pulpits across the country, using his lofty position to help spread his Christian faith. The Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or the FCA, as most high schools and colleges know it, they named its National Citizenship Award after Bobby Bowden back in 2003. And to hear a lot of these stories that his former players have been telling since his passing on Sunday, you understand that Bobby Bowden, he was all about the 3 F's.
Yes. Faith,
family, football, in that order.
That's right.
Those were his priorities. He would preach to his guys, the virtues of Christianity and, how to be great brothers and uncles and fathers and husbands. He wanted all of his players to be successful in all those avenues before they were successful at football. That was tertiary to him.
Absolutely.
That was one that he was concerned about it because it was his job and he was great at it.
Oh, yeah.
However, if it meant that you weren't, in the way he looked at it, I'm not going to get into the semantics of religion here, regardless of however any of you want to look at it, but Bobby wanted to make sure that his guys had a relationship with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to make sure that they were great, high-quality character men. And then, if they were great football players, that was cool.
Absolutely.
Bobby Bowden had 377 victories when he was at Howard College, which is now Samford University. So those 377 victories were spread out between Howard, West Virginia, and Florida State. And they're more than every major college football coach except for Joe Pa, old Joe Paterno, who had 409 victories in 46 seasons at Penn State. Bobby Bowden guided his Florida State teams to a 315, 98-4 record. The Seminoles were forced to vacate 12 wins because of NCAA violations. But those Florida State teams also won 12 ACC championships and 2 national titles in both 93 and 99. And when Bobby Bowden retired after the 2009 season, he ranked first among active coaches in winning percentage in bowl games with 68.8%, second in bowl victories with 22 bowl victories, and second in bowl appearances with 33 bowl appearances. He also had a great run of 14 straight years with double-digit wins.
That's crazy.
which is largely untouched or probably will be untouched for a while. But Bobby Bowden led his teams to bowl games for 27 consecutive seasons, including a remarkable 15 straight appearances in a prestigious New Year's Day Bowl. At one point, Bowden's team won 11 consecutive bowl games over that stretch, and he is the only coach in NCAA history, as I said, to lead teams to 14 straight seasons with 10 victories or more.
Yeah, that's New Year's Day bowl games.
Yeah.
We're not talking about December 18th,
Right.
at the Sugar Toe Bowl. We're talking about the big bowls, the Sugar Bowl. We're talking
Sugar
about the
Bowl,
Fiesta Bowl,
Orange Bowl,
these
Fiesta
big
Bowl,
games.
Rose Bowl. I mean, when it came to the big games, Bobby Bowden had his teams there year in and year out. You got to think, like, how we think about Nick Saban in Alabama right now.
Yep.
Bobby Bowden was doing that with Florida State way before Nick Saban.
Oh, exactly. Just, man, there you go.
And you hate to hear him go, and you hate that it was cancer that took his life. But man, he
91
he
years
lived to
old.
be 91.
91.
Like,
Something was gonna get him.
That is a great run.
It is a great run, but rest in peace, Coach Bowden. That's just awesome. We gotta talk about this one real quick too. How about them Louisiana Ragin Cajuns?
Oh man, see, this is interesting to me, especially because we're Texas Longhorn fans.
That's right.
So, and Texas actually opens up their season with the Ragin Cajuns this year.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
So, thing to keep in mind with the Ragin Cajuns are that they're coming off a highly successful 2020 campaign that saw them go 10-1 overall and 7-1 within the Sun Belt Conference.
Yep.
Their head coach, Billy Napier, he's very dedicated to the cause of turning around that Louisiana program. We start hearing about these coaches that have success. The big schools start calling, and they pack up their bags and they go.
Yeah,
because
of course.
they got the opportunity to make more money at a higher prestige program. I get why those coaches do that. But Billy Napier, over the last 2 off seasons, has turned down 4 SEC head coaching jobs. You think before Mississippi State hired Mike Leach, they contacted Billy Napier?
That's right.
Turned him down. Before Ole Miss hired Lane Kiffin, they contacted Billy Napier. He turned them down. South Carolina and Auburn this offseason both contacted Billy Napier. He said, hey, I appreciate you guys talking to me, but I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you.
That's right.
And
I love that, though.
Decided to stay down there at Louisiana. But Napier, he's 28-11 in his 4 seasons at Louisiana, and he has the Ragin Cajuns ranked in the top 25 preseason poll and has the team positioned as one of the top group of 5 teams in the country. That can compete with like Cincinnati,
Sure,
or Coastal Carolina, or App State, one of those schools as well.
And again, we kind of touched on this last week, but I think we're really going to start seeing, though, for some of these teams, was the COVID season a fluke for some of these teams,
Right.
or was it a legit, these teams are for real, and they're going to be here, and they're going to be competing?
Because we saw traditional powers that were down last year.
That's right.
LSU was down, coming off of a national championship. They were down
Exactly.
bad. Granted, they lost like half their team to the NFL, so, I mean, maybe there was something to it. But, like, Michigan was down bad. Penn State was down bad. So we'll see a lot of those guys turn around. Things that the Ragin Cajuns have going for them this year is that they're returning basically their entire offense, except for their top 2 running backs. Now, their top 2 running backs are gone. Hopefully, their next 2 on the depth chart can really step up, but they're smaller guys. They don't have they don't have really a bruiser on the roster. However, they've got, without a doubt, the biggest, strongest offensive line in the Sun Belt Conference, and their quarterback, who regressed as far as his accuracy in passing, he developed his mobility and his run game and his decision making as a quarterback last year. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes as a 5th-year senior.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what happens with the Ragin Cajuns. I mean, you got number 24 Louisiana Ragin Cajuns going into number 21 Texas Longhorns in Austin to start off on week 1.
Hey, there you go. So, let's talk about this real quick. We got to talk about this. There's some preseason games happening. We kind of briefly mentioned Cowboys are playing the Cardinals this weekend. Run down through these real quick, because, again, there's nothing on the line here except for the guys who are actually playing in this game. All right, and that's where their positioning goes up, their value, their stock within these teams. I know Thursday night we've got the Washington football teams taking on the New England Patriots.
That will be on NFL Network at 6:30.
Yep, you got the Steelers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. That's at 6:30.
I lied to you guys. I apologize. The game is not on Thursday night.
It's on Friday.
Friday night
The 13th.
will be the
Of course.
right. But so Friday you got the Titans at the Falcons at 6 o'clock. Also at 6 o'clock on NFL Network will be the Bills at the Lions.
Bills.
And then following that up is the game we talked about earlier. The Cowboys will be going out to the desert to take on the Cardinals, which will follow the Bills and Lions on NFL Network.
Is that the Houston Bills?
The Austin
Houston Bills. Austin Bills? Could be the Austin Bills.
Could potentially be. But so far they're still in Buffalo.
Hey, there you go.
Which brings us to Saturday. So Saturday, all day long, from noon until midnight, you should have NFL football on your TV screen.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So NFL Network at noon, the Dolphins are traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. At 3 p.m., the Broncos make their way up to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. At 6 o'clock, the Saints and the Ravens will not be on TV. But also at 6 o'clock, you've got the Browns at the Jaguars.
The Browns.
Get our first footage of Trevor Lawrence.
That's what I'm interested to see.
Yeah,
I
so
want
we
to
can
see
see
some.
that.
I want to see some Tebow time.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence to Tim Tebow for a touchdown. That's going to be interesting. You get the Battle of New York at 6:30, although it will not be on TV, as the Jets take on the Giants in what is technically a home game for both teams, an away game for both teams, and a neutral site game for both teams. Also at 6:30, the Cincinnati Bengals take on the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Buccaneers. Do not expect to see Tom Brady play any football there. At 7 p.m., the Houston Texans will take on the Green Bay Packers.
As the Texans trot out their water boys, because that's about all they have left on that football team.
And the Packers will not be playing Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you'll see Aaron Rodgers play any
No.
preseason football at all.
He'll be there day one.
At 7:30, the Chiefs will go out to the Bay Area to take on the 49ers. At 8 o'clock, the Seahawks travel out to Vegas to take on the Raiders.
The Raiders.
And then at 9 p.m., the Battle of Los Angeles takes place on NFL Network as the Chargers and the Rams, much like the Jets and the Giants, they have the home game for both, the away game for both, the neutral site game for both. As the Chargers are technically the away team here, the Rams being the host.
It's funny.
And then on Sunday night, August 15th, to wrap up the weekend, not Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, rather.
Sunday afternoon.
To wrap up the weekend, at 12 p.m. on the NFL Network, you've got the Panthers at the Colts. All these times that I listed are Central Standard Time, so if you're on the East Coast, if you're on Mountain Time, Pacific Time, you can figure it out for yourself.
Crank it up, crank it back. Either way it goes. But yeah, that's our list of the foosball games this weekend. We're getting closer and closer, man. Football is starting up. I can't wait. I'm excited about it. I'm going to be able to go in here and watch these games, check out some of these teams, see what's going on in the world of football.
I mean, we've got 3 more weeks of NFL preseason football.
That's right.
Before that season starts. And then I'm trying to look up what the NCAA schedule is. They're starting in August.
Yes.
August 28th, as a matter of
That's
fact,
right.
will be week 0, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
The big game that week, though, is Nebraska, Illinois, which is a Big Ten battle.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
so
I can't
that'll
wait
be
till we
August
get there
28th
and
at
start
noon.
covering that.
So, man, we're
Still a couple
16
weeks
days
out.
away.
Yeah.
16 days away from college football.
High school football starts, though. I know here in the SIP,
Yeah.
it starts the 13th, which will be Friday.
Yeah.
We have a couple games. And I know on our high school football after wrap-up show or overtime show that we're going to be having here in Mississippi, going to be a lot of fun. We start that on the 20th, which will be fun. Covering a lot of the north half of Mississippi, to be honest with you, is what we're going to try
But
to
they're
focus
going
on.
to get into
A lot
Mississippi
of
high
fun
school
stuff.
football as
A lot
well.
of fun stuff. But it's football, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, so you have the Friday Night Football overtime show. For you guys that are listening in on Undefined Radio, and I mean, if you listen on the podcast, hey, we appreciate you. We
Yes.
thank you for downloading and sharing. If you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, that's great as well. We appreciate it. But for you guys that listen on undefinedradio.com, we will be having Friday Night Football. Not just the overtime show, but actual football games. Charleston High School, the Charleston Tigers. They will be live on undefinedradio.com, as well as the North Delta Green Wave. Just go to undefinedradio.com, click on Friday Night Football tab, pick which school's game you want to listen to, and tune in.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. And we'll be adding more and more schools, which I'm excited about. There's a lot of things going on. This is why I love football. Football is the absolute best sport. Hands down, there's just nothing better than football. It's the most exciting. There's so many things that happen in football and during a game and practice before and after. It's why it's the ultimate team sport, but it's so much fun because of all those things that we talk about on this show and you hear others talk about, and just the sport of football itself is amazing. We didn't even talk about the Drizzler Awards this week.
No, we didn't.
And the Big Kahuna Award this week.
That's just because we had so many other things to talk
So
about.
I was thinking about this and the Drizzler Awards, and because it's so hard to do right now without, the games really haven't started up yet. We did it last week because, first of all, a couple guys earned it.
I can think of a Drizzler now.
So with that being said, I was getting to that point right there. Let me pop this up because it's time for the Drizzler Awards. And this week's Drizzler Award is, JC.
For me, this week's Drizzler is Ben DiNucci.
Danucci.
Yeah, DiNucci. The 87th string quarterback out of James Madison, I believe he is. Plays for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Look, he sucks at football. That's just all there is to say. We saw him play against the Eagles last year. He had no offseason, no OTAs. He had every excuse for sucking against the Eagles on national television last season.
Sure.
All right, I get it. He had no excuse for sucking against the Steelers on national television with a full off season, with Dak Prescott taking fewer reps while nursing some injuries. He should have been able to step up. I don't care what string dudes he was playing with. Dwayne Haskins was playing with the same 8th, 9th string guys. You know what they were doing? Moving the ball up and down the field.
Yeah, well, Dwayne Haskins is a lot better than DiNucci anyway.
Is he? Because he was trash in Washington.
Yeah, well, still, it's better than DiNucci.
So, but and that's the point. It plays right into Ben DiNucci was god awful this week, and that is why he is my Drizzler for this week.
Cooper Rush is my Drizzler because I get eye cancer watching him throw the football. Let's be clear, he cannot throw the football.
Not with power, anyway.
The football is like, when he throws the football, it's like time travel, right? The ball goes so slow, it looks like it's going in reverse. I can't even explain the physics behind the way he throws a football. How it doesn't get intercepted before he throws it, I don't even know.
It's like,
because it should.
It's like Cooper Rush fell in love with the touch pass early in life, and that's all he's ever tried to throw ever since.
Yeah. Oh,
it's just light touch passes.
Dude, it was horrible. It was horrible.
The hang time the ball stays up there with, it feels like you're watching a punt.
Absolutely. It was so great. It hurt me physically to watch that. It was driving me crazy. And it was funny because I had such a visceral reaction to it. I'm like, why is this ball just hanging in the air like that? Like defying the laws of gravity. And everybody's just like watching it because they're so spellbound. Like, I know I should be able to intercept this ball, but I'm just not going to, just because I can't stop watching it. It was crazy. On the plus side of that, though, let's give out a couple Big Kahuna Awards because I know who mine is.
Oh, I know who mine is.
Let's go. Let's talk about it.
So my first Big Kahuna, or my only Big Kahuna, I only get the one. But my Big Kahuna this week is Steelers punter Presley Harvin III.
There you go.
This man showed out. He got a lot of opportunities to punt. It was a Hall of Fame game after all. However, every time he did, he hung the punts high.
Yep.
He had a couple punts down inside the 10. One of them down at the 1. It hit at the 1.
And stuck.
And it didn't.
It just stuck.
It stuck.
It's like
it
bounced.
bounced.
Yeah, but it bounced straight up. It's like, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere else. So y'all can forget about it.
So, I don't know if, what's his name, Barry, I don't know if he'll be back as the Steelers punter because they got a rookie now who's out here doing the thing. He's going to be a lot cheaper.
That dude crushed it.
So shout out to Presley Harvin III. What a name for a punter, too.
I swear.
For anybody,
that's
let alone a punter.
Name.
So Presley Harvin III, he's my Big Kahuna of the week?
I got to tell you, mine's Najee Harris. I thought, man, he ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball. He was seeing the holes. He was hitting it. He wasn't afraid to hit, and Najee was getting it done. So I don't want anybody talking about out there that, oh, these guys are the Cowboy fans, so we're going to praise all the Cowboys. Based on these awards, you can see that's not true. So I'm just telling you. And I loved what Micah Parsons did, don't get me wrong, but if we're talking about guys who are really shining out there, it was the punter for the Steelers for sure, and it was Najee Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, they were getting
looked great.
done. They looked awesome. It was great to see that. It's great to see Najee out there just cutting up. I mean, I think he can be something special at this level. So excited to see what he does, man. Excited to see what he does. But that's pretty much it. Is that it for this week? We gave out our awards. Gave out all the stuff.
Hit our topics. I think that's it.
I think we got it.
The only thing left for me to tell everyone is, if you haven't already, go like our Facebook page. You can like it. You can share it. It's The Undefined Blitz. We're on YouTube as well. If you want to ever watch the videos, we are on YouTube, just Undefined Blitz.
Absolutely.
On Twitter and Instagram, at Undefined_Blitz. And then you can find us on any and all major podcasting platforms.
There you go. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in to this episode of the Undefined Blitz, and we will catch you guys next week. You've been listening to Undefined Blitz on UndefinedRadio.com. Stay up to date by following the show on social media. On Twitter and Instagram, that's Undefined_Blitz. On Facebook, that's The Undefined Blitz. And on YouTube, it's Undefined Blitz. Give us a like and a subscribe. Help us grow Undefined Blitz, and we'll see you back here next week.